October 10th, 2017. A date that will live in U.S. soccer infamy. The men's soccer team of the United States of America takes the field in the town of Cuba, Trinidad and Tobago, with every expectation of doing a victory lap at the end of a difficult World Cup qualifying campaign. 2 hours later, they leave the field stunned. Across the Caribbean, U.S. fans are shocked and angry. How could this be? How could the United States, the most mighty nation the world has seen since the fall of the Roman Empire, fail to find 11 men who could reach the final tournament of the world's most popular sport? Rewind 28 years. The U.S. men were supposed to lose in Trinidad that time and miss the World Cup. Again. Expectations were pretty low. But Paul Caligiuri launched the shot heard around the world, and a bunch of college kids with mullets were off to the World Cup. Rewind about 32 years. The North American Soccer League, which briefly made the New York Cosmos, the Tampa Bay Rowdies, and the Minnesota Kicks the toast of the nation, has collapsed. Professional soccer, which had often tinkered with some rule changes to appeal to a U.S. audience, has morphed into something uniquely American. It's indoors. Basically, ice hockey with a soccer ball. It's no surprise soccer had become uniquely American. That's the way we like it. In the 19th century, when the vaguely defined sport known as football split into rugby football and association football, yes, Anglophiles, that's where we get the word soccer. It's your word. American colleges opted instead to invent American football, which grew into a giant sport on college campuses in the early 20th century and eventually turned into the titanic business we call the NFL. We also already had a sport called baseball, which was so intent on shrouding its origins in English sports that it concocted a story that a U.S. military academy student and future Civil War general named Abner Doubleday had invented the sport. At least basketball really was invented here, when James Naismith came up with a game that could be played indoors during the winter.
All of these sports took off. In soccer, after the fleeting success of the American Soccer League just before the Great Depression and a third-place finish in a 13-team World Cup, the sport went into hibernation. Yes, the U.S. upset England in the 1950 World Cup, but then the team embarked on a couple of decades of sporadic activity. From 1954 to 1965, the U.S. didn't win a game. Not a single game. In 11 years.
Americans simply don't want to be like the rest of the world. We're a country of immigrants desperate to forge our own identity. Yes, we're a global superpower, but we didn't follow anyone else's trail to get there. Besides, population is a poor indicator of soccer success. The Netherlands are a historical power. Belgium is the top-ranked team in the world today. And the runner-up in the 2018 World Cup was Croatia, whose run to the final captivated all 4 million people in a country that has only been independent for a couple of decades. On the flip side, how are China and India faring in men's soccer these days? In all of these countries, throughout much of Europe, South America, and Africa, soccer is deeply ingrained in the culture. Typically, the sports scene consists of soccer and then everything else. Here, it's American football, basketball, and baseball, with soccer now dueling hockey to rank roughly fourth on that list. Things are changing. Millennials and Generation Z are more global in their thinking than their parents. But that rise in popularity has coincided with the rise of the truly global media. Watching a soccer game from Europe used to require a trip to an out-of-the-way bar with a satellite dish and a subscription to an obscure company. Now you can watch dozens of games on a given weekend on a device you can fit in your pocket. That's great for fans, but it's bad for a U.S. soccer league trying to catch up to leagues that have a 100-year head start. And it's not as if we all get behind that league or the U.S. Federation. We're a fractious bunch of people, all with our own ideas on how to organize a soccer league or a soccer practice. Some people seem unable to argue for equal pay for the U.S. women's team without denigrating the men. And that spills over into another grand tradition, suing each other. Leagues sue each other and the Federation. Players sue the leagues and the Federation, most recently the well-publicized case of the popular U.S. women's team suing the unpopular Federation, which seems unlikely to make much headway when it's spending more on lawyers than on the youth national team coaches. Phew. Those losses don't seem so surprising now, do they? And that's why I wrote this book, Why the U.S. Men Will Never Win the World Cup, a historical and cultural reality check. It takes readers through the colorful history of soccer in a country that only recently stopped actively hating the sport in significant numbers. It doesn't say U.S. fans should give up. It doesn't say we're due to wallow in eternal failure, losing in Cuba and Canada every time we take the field. We've seen a few great moments. In 1950, a scrappy bunch of semi-pros humbled England in the World Cup. In 2002, a golden generation of young Americans saw fate smile upon them for a run to the World Cup quarterfinals. In 2009, in the somewhat meaningful Confederations Cup, the U.S. men handed Spain their first defeat in 35 games. If we do things right and pull together, at least a little bit, we'll have more moments like that. There's a certain nobility in chasing an unattainable prize, and we'll have fun along the way. Viral videos showed Americans losing their mind when Landon Donovan scored a late winner just to get the men to the 2010 World Cup round of 16. Imagine what will happen if they ever reach the quarterfinals again, or even the semifinals. What will happen is that the soccer community will unite. That's not common. The United States are rarely united. But if we, together, find the best way forward rather than just suing and stabbing each other in the back every time the men disappoint us, we can accomplish great things. We just need to look at the reality of what the great historian David Wangerin called soccer in a football world. Avoiding reality doesn't help. That's why this book is a reality check. But not a depressing reality check. We can be inspired to see how far we've come. And from the stands, we can sing and cheer while occasionally indulging in the gallows humor that most soccer clubs fans need more often than not. It's not the destination. It's a journey in which we might not always know where we're going, but we'll find some unexpected surprises along the way. There's no reason we can't keep walking. Why the U.S. Men Will Never Win the World Cup, a historical and cultural reality check, is available online at roman.com and from your favorite online bookstore in hardcover and ebook form. Check it out today.